Welcome to the TufFish Show. I am so excited to bring to you Hillary Lee. Hillary, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Jen. I'm so excited.
Oh, absolutely. So I would love for you to start by saying, how did you get into writing?
Yeah, so I have loved writing from a very young age. Even when I was like 7 or 8, I used to make books, like picture books. I would illustrate them, and I would glue a bunch of pieces of construction paper together to make it a hardcover for my cover. My mom saved a few of those, which is really sentimental now. So from a very young age, I've just always loved the art of writing, and always found just a piece of I guess a piece of solace. Anytime in any scenario in your life, you can write and get your thoughts out. And I find it to just be very healing.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you made them out of construction paper. That is so sweet.
I have some that are laminated or like multiple layers of construction paper just glued together with good old, Elmer's glue.
That is awesome. I love that. I love that so much. But you just mentioned a word there that ties so nicely with what you do in your full-time job is you said the word healing. So your current job is actually in orthopedic surgery, correct?
Yes, yes. I'm a physician assistant in orthopedic surgery. So a few days a week, I'm in the clinic caring for patients, and then a few days a week, I'm in the operating room.
Wow. And I love how the word healing comes through in all aspects then. So it just shows up as just like kind of a core part of a value, really, a core value that you have.
Absolutely. It's one of those things too, even thinking back to childhood, when you think about your childhood dreams. I always told my mom I want to be a doctor and a teacher. Those were the two things I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to write. So, being a physician assistant allows me full autonomy with my patients, and still allows me to have a great work life balance to where I can still pursue things like becoming a children's book author.
Oh, I love that so much.
Thank you.
That's just beautiful. That is so, so cool. So tell me about your first book. Oh, how I love you. I love so, so much that title and just the sentiment. I just think that's precious. Tell me about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, my first book, Oh, the Way I Love You, was written when my son, who is now 2.5, he was just a few months old. And, in those first few months of infancy, his older sister was not even a year and a half whenever he was born. So we had a lot of chaos in our house. And as those first few weeks and months can be, they were difficult with my son Samuel. Just he had some reflux things and difficulty sleeping. And I just found myself, as so many moms do, just exhausted and just like clinging by the love that I have for my kids, in terms of how do I get through this next day? I'm so tired, all these things. And I'll never forget the moment I lifted him up and I held him to my chest and I just said, "Oh, the way I love you." And even today, it gives me chills because it was just the most organic moment in motherhood. And I wrote the poem that has now become the book that very day, and just thought, I kind of sat on it for a while and finally decided I wanted to go ahead and pursue publishing.
I love that. You actually made my eyes water for that. That was so sweet. Just because how you said that, you could just feel the love. You could just feel the beauty and the authenticity there.
Thank you.
And the fact that it started as a poem,
Mhm.
what was it like to take the poem and turn it into a picture book? Because that's a different shift. Like
Yeah.
you, my children's book started as poems and then they shifted as well. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about the shift that happens there.
Yeah. So I like I said, I kind of waited months and months and decided, is it really on my heart to go ahead and pursue publishing? I always knew I wanted to. I did a lot of research in ways I could go ahead and pursue it. And I decided self publishing would be the best route for me, just so that I could be in charge of kind of the view, how it looked and the illustrations. Because this is such a close book and poem towards my family and my kids, I wanted the illustrations to actually represent my own family. So even down to the dog that's in the book, that's our family. And so, I took each part of the poem and kind of thought, you know, what's this image that matches that, and just kind of laid everything out throughout that whole illustration process. And I'm really excited with our final product. And my kids love to see our family, and they point and they say who's who in there. So it's really fun.
I think that is beautiful. I think that is absolutely beautiful. But I really have to ask you, so full-time mama,
Yeah.
full-time PA,
Yes.
children's book author. So therefore, there's also an element of running a business happening, because when you're an author, you are running a business. So business owner,
Yeah.
Hillary, how do you manage all of that?
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. I think, you know, I try to, of course, take some time for myself when that's possible to calm down and enjoy just some quiet. But ultimately, it's just, I think what motivates me is my kids and my family. And I am the type of person kind of endlessly optimistic just in my lifestyle. And so I love to see patients in my everyday life get better. You know, in orthopedic surgery, we have such a joy to see our patients improve through what we're doing. And then in this, it's like I have this project that I'm working on that's so dear to my heart. So the motivation was honestly kind of always just inherent. It just ingrained. And then on top of this, I also kind of spearheaded a side business as well with the book.
Talk to me about that. That sounds fun.
So it is kind of fun, and it's another way for me to use a creative outlet. It's something I kind of do again in spare time, but my business is called Baby Books and Mama Looks, and I came about the idea just in starting to promote Oh the Way I Love You. I noticed that, you know, people really liked the idea of a mama t-shirt to go along with Oh the Way I Love You, or maybe a mama t-shirt and a baby onesie or something of that sort. So that's kind of the premise of Baby Books and Mama Looks. It's an Etsy shop where people can order my book and couple it with some apparel either for mama or for babies or however they would like to do. And then each book, of course, comes with a personalized inscription to the buyer.
I love that. Now, I have a question for you on that, because when you are looking at clothing in particular, you deal with multiple sizes and that kind of, so mama has sizes, baby has sizes, and potentially there's some color options, maybe not, but at least the sizing going on. How do you manage that? How do you manage the inventory element of that?
That's a great question. So here in my home office where we are now, I have a dresser. So to stay organized, we put a dresser up here, and I just have it organized into onesies, you know, kids' clothes. I almost said pediatric, but that's clearly medical part coming in. So baby onesies, kids' clothes, and then all the way up, you know, small through extra large for adult. I do mostly black and white options in terms of the base, but I do have some other color options as well. And then the colors that I put onto the apparel can change as well. So the sky's kind of the limit, you know, when we're talking about designs, and I have the option for customers to reach out to me if they'd like a specific design personalized to them as well.
So how do you handle sizing elements? Because when you're running something with clothes in that matter, I mean, with books, it's pretty cut and dry. It's a hardback or a paperback kind of a thing. But with clothes, you're dealing with multiple sizes. You're going to deal with, you know, maybe, you know, 6 months old or extra small or something like that. But so how did you project to know what sizes that you need so that you at least carry a good amount of inventory where you need it and not so much where you don't need it?
Absolutely. It's a learning game, honestly, and I'm new to the entire scenario of owning my own business. But what I've done so far is to keep a small inventory of each size so that I've got a good running inventory. And then all of my orders that I get through Etsy are done made to order. So if I get low on sizes, then I have the opportunity to order in a new size before my next order.
Cool. Very, very cool. So I love that you paired the book with clothes. I think that that's so sweet and so creative. I think that's precious. What kind of feedback have you gotten from doing so?
So much. I've really gotten a lot of good feedback. It's been a really fun process to put them all together. And something that's been really exciting for me too is, in starting to market my book and be more active on social media, I've actually met some author friends who I have welcomed into my Baby Books and Mama Looks business. So I now have almost 5 available books. Planning for the 5th one very, very soon. That are also available on my website, and all of those books also couple with their own apparel as well. So it's really exciting to get to expand it and also promote some of my wonderful author friends who have their self-published books as well.
I love that. I think that is so, so sweet. So let's talk a little bit more about your book. So if I remember correctly, I think you told me that there might be a new book coming out.
Yes. So yeah, super excited about it. It's going to be wonderful. My next book, I don't have a real timeline just yet because I do really want to enjoy each stage of this process. With this next one, I've actually partnered with a local artist who will be my illustrator. Her name's Taylor Walker. She's incredible. She's wonderfully talented and such a creative soul that I'm excited to work with. So we're going to work through each stage together. It's in the editing process right now. But it kind of, I would think if you're thinking of some classic books to compare my book to, I would compare it to The Kissing Hand and Love You Forever. I think it's very similar to both of those in the genre, and it's a rhyming book as well.
So talk to me about how you were able to create the rhyme. Was it something, because, not just a poem, but a rhyming poem. So I'm assuming that you also have elements of iambic pentameter. There's a beat there too.
Yeah.
How did you make sure that you had the beat?
So anytime I'm working with a rhyming story, Oh, the Way I Love You the same way, the new one is called The Kiss That Sticks Forever. So it's similar in the type of rhyming rhythm that I'm going for, but I will just kind of read it out loud, and almost like snap my beat, snap myself, so that I'm really getting that good rhythm, because I know when I'm reading a rhyming story, if the cadence is off just a little bit, it's not as enjoyable of a read to me. So that part has been very important for me to really nail in both of my books. I really want to get that rhythm down.
I love that. So like you, I have children's books that have a rhyming, they have the iambic pentameter going on. And I basically kind of set my own little metronome by rocking, snapping or tapping or something, and then like get the beat that I think it should be, and then start reading out loud. And between the two of them, you really hear the book and you hear where something's not working and where you hear where something is working. So reading out loud is such a powerful way to even just edit your book, because you're hearing dialogue or you're hearing something and you're like, that doesn't feel right. And it doesn't sound right even. So how do I go fix it? So it's an easy way to edit as well.
I agree. I also have some family and friends read it out loud to me so that I can then hear how another person is interpreting it. Because that's always an important aspect of it too. Maybe they are reading it in a different rhythm than I am. So
love that. That's a great idea. I think that's so fantastic I think that's such a fantastic suggestion to have, not just for you, but for somebody else, that you can hear it and go, is this what I'm intending? How does this feel? Type of thing.
Absolutely. And very similar to my first book, Oh, the Way I Love You. So that one was inspired by my son, Samuel. The second book, The Kiss That Sticks Forever, was inspired by my daughter, Gwendolyn.
I was wondering that.
Yeah, it was just another very raw, real moment of parenthood, as we all have. And I find that that's when I gain my biggest inspirations. So we were putting her to bed one night, happened to actually be the night of my very first book signing as an author. So I was all just hyped up. What a great day it was. And my husband and I both went to give her a kiss goodnight. And so we kissed her on the cheek and said goodnight like we always do. And she grabbed my hand and kissed my palm and closed it and said, Mommy, this will stick forever. And I wrote a poem in that night. Yeah. So this is another project that's so near and dear to my heart. I'm really excited to dive into it and really get it edited to a beautiful rhythm, to do it justice of the story that she inspired me to write.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I love your children so much. I think that they are so precious because, but I love how you're seeing inspiration in basically an everyday moment,
Mhm.
something that you were attentive to and you were present in, and that created the inspiration. And then it just flowed from there. So do you write your stories, like handwrite them, or do you voice them into your phone, or did you immediately like hop on the computer and literally type it out?
So this is funny. I've never been asked this question, but it's a great one because again, real life, I use my notes section in my phone. And that's how I wrote "Oh, the Way I Love You." That's how I wrote "The Kiss That Sticks Forever." I have another one that's probably a few years out. That's how I wrote that one. So it's funny. I have a bunch of notes within there, and then I end up eventually putting them onto my computer.
That's how I handled mine.
Yeah,
And sometimes it was voiced and
yeah.
sometimes it was typed. And when I voiced it and realized that the phone did not pick up exactly what I said, it kind of butchered it. I had to go back and edit it correctly on the phone before I sent it to the computer, just to make sure I was like, what was I
Yeah.
trying to say to myself?
I've done that too with the voice text because I have an hour commute each way to the hospital. So sometimes, you're driving and you're thinking about things, and my commute is kind of my quiet time where I can sip my coffee and enjoy. And so sometimes you're like, oh, I just got an idea. And so I'll do a voice kind of thing. And it's very helpful.
Yep, that's exactly how that's happened to me so many times.
Yeah.
Exact same reason, totally.
I have to catch the inspiration when it hits.
Exactly, exactly. So, what was it like for your first book signing? How did you go about making those arrangements? How did you, you know, talk to me about that experience, like leading up to it, how you made it happen? What was it like at the event? Talk to me about that.
It was absolutely wonderful, to be honest. So it was of course delayed by about 6 months due to the COVID pandemic. And I, being in healthcare myself, I was even anxious to host such a thing, but we followed all precautions. Most were vaccinated, so you felt good in that. And it was a mostly outdoor event, but it was here at a local bookshop that's also a brewery. And so they have coffee drinks, also beer and other types of refreshments. And it's just this really cute atmosphere of a bunch of books. They're very local author friendly, and so they love to host events. And so I just reached out to them. I went in there one day to actually meet another local author just to kind of talk about some things, and then spoke with the owner at that time. And then we got it all set up. I was planning to do a reading at the event, but I was so blessed and just overjoyed that I had a line the entire time of people coming to have their books signed and talk about it. So I'll have to have another one so we can do a reading as well.
I love that. That's such a cool thing that that first event, there's nothing like it because there's excitement, there's a little nervousness, there's the oh my gosh, I've really done this thing. So I love that. What kind of things did you have for your table to help create the feeling of your space?
So I had some flowers and all of my books lined up. And then right next to me was a small coloring table for kids to get to color. So I made just a little coloring sheet, just "Oh, the way I love you." And then the child could draw a picture about the way they love someone. And that was really sweet because I got to save a few of those. The kids gave them to me. So I have a few really cute ones. One has like a picture of a rainbow and says, "Oh, the way I love you is a kind human." So it's just cute the way kids, interpret how they love someone to be kind. And I thought that's so great. So yeah, so we had that. And then, the brewery restaurant also had some food and things, refreshments available. And then right outside is a really fun playground. So it was kind of a full experience for people. It was really fun.
Very cool. Very cool. So what elements do you think are important to have for a good book signing?
I think, one of the biggest things is just your personal touch, whatever you think is really important to you that you want to portray that day. So for me, I definitely wanted books available if someone did want to grab a copy for someone. So I had books available. Having the coloring sheet to keep kids happy and entertained, and also give it that little special touch was really important as well. And then, just having having it in a good atmosphere that gives the good, good vibe, and it's a comfortable place for everyone as well. That was very important for me.
I so love that. I so love that. So now we've talked a little bit about the creation, of the book and the new book as well, and how sometimes inspiration hits at some different points and such. But have you ever had a situation where you just feel like either that little inner critic won't stop and it's like in your way, or even to a point that it feels like you've written something, it's like, yeah, are you kidding? Who's going to like that? Or what are you doing? And have you run into that? And if you have, how do you overcome it?
I have absolutely run into that. I think so many times in life, like, we end up being our own worst critic. And I'm definitely, guilty of that, being my own worst critic, and sometimes thinking, oh, I can't do this, or no one's going to like this, or, just the general fears that any writer and author has. And even in motherhood, sometimes too, right? We're our own worst critic in that. So I think anytime I feel that way, I kind of go back to my inspiration behind why I do all the things I do. And so for both of these projects with my books, my inspiration is my kids and my family. And so that brings me back to, my kids are going to love it. And so if my kids are going to love this rhyming story that talks about all the many ways I love them, then it's my hope, in my true, honor, if another family and young children will also love that. And so that brings me back to, not everyone's going to love every single story every single time. But if someone really feels that joy and love and connection and snuggling up with my book, then I'm over the moon excited about it. Mm-hmm.
I think that is such an important point that you just said. It's not just about those who you are excited to connect with, but that it's okay if your book isn't for everyone. And that doesn't mean that it's not a good book and that you're not a good writer. It doesn't mean that. It just means that there's a different book for every single person. And, just as sometimes I've heard young people talk about how I haven't found a book that I like yet. I don't like reading. And sometimes I look at that whenever I hear a young person talk about that, especially when I had much more book signings before COVID, that I'm just like, are you sure? Maybe you just haven't found the right book yet. What kind of thing do you like? And then ultimately, that's just the thing, is that they haven't found the right book. But when you do, it's almost like you've just unlocked so much opportunity and potential. It's like you've just walked through the coolest imagination door, and then all these other things come out because of it. So that, I love that you said, it's almost kind of like giving that writer, that author, permission, saying it's okay if you get feedback that says this isn't for me. That's okay, because that means you'll find the right people who it is for.
Absolutely. And I think, in talking about, if when young children say they don't love to read, it's just you haven't found that right book. That's it. That makes me so happy. I feel the exact same way, because sometimes when you do find that one right book, it just catapults you into the love of reading. And I think for kids, it's such an exciting time for their imaginations to start, really getting really getting active. And so once they find those books that they love, possibilities are endless for them. And so that's super exciting for me. And yeah, I definitely have come to terms with the fact that, oh, the way I love you, it's for a specific audience, and some people will love it. And it's my hope and joy that it brings special moments for people. Mm-hmm.
I love that. But I also think what you just said there is also very important, is that, it's for a certain audience. That tells me that, you're recognizing that there is a target market, that once you've written this book or this story for you, once you did this for yourself and then made the decision, yeah, I think I want to share this. Yes, it's out there for anyone, but it's really intended for a certain someone, and that someone will find it. And it's a good thing to have that audience in mind of who that is. So would you talk a little bit about who your special someone, your special audience is?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with you. Yeah, finding that someone, a lot of times in our market, in children's books in general, it's such a vast market that we're trying to go into. And so I think as a new author, new writer, that was a very overwhelming piece for me. but, in thinking about my niche of people, who I'm really trying to get, a precious moment for with this book. It's younger kids for sure. It's mamas and grandmas and grandpas and daddies and aunts and uncles and friends and all these people who have a little person in their life, a little kid in their life that they just love and they want to snuggle up with and talk about all the ways they love this person, this little human who's growing and active and imaginative and all these things. And so with the illustrations, it's my hope too that the kids see, oh, I love you as precious as a diamond, and then they see this big diamond. So that's a fun way for me to think about who my target audience is with this book. And also, I know when I was pregnant with my kids, both of them, I would sit in the nursery and just read to them, just rubbing my belly and just read to them. This book is for those mamas too, to start that joy and love of reading with your baby from the very beginning is just such a wonderful part of life. And so this book is for them as well.
Oh my gosh, I just so love that. This has been such an amazing conversation. So much joy, so much love. I mean, I love this conversation. You were precious. This is amazing. Hillary, where can people connect with you and where can they find your book?
Thank you so much. So I'm on Instagram. I like to stay pretty active, and I'm on Instagram at babybooks_mama looks. You can also find me on Etsy, Baby Books Mama Looks, and then you can find my book, Oh, the Way I Love You, on Amazon, also on Barnes and Noble, and as an ebook.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much, Hillary, for being on the show. This has been such an amazing time with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. Thank you.